So, welcome in to the Dirty Pocket. I am joined by my partner in crime, the scout, Daniel Kelly, also writer for Sports Illustrated, covering both the Lions and the Jets. And a big congratulations, as he is now a feature writer at Draft Fuel. You can follow him at draftfuelhq.com. Welcome into the Scout. How are we this week?
Hey, I'm doing really well, Stacey. How are you?
I'm doing good. Midweek. And, I don't know if you heard, and we're not going to get much time for it this week, but a certain team is representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to throw in my.
Yeah, I guess you're entitled. See, we're on two different ends of the spectrum. You're going to the show, and my team is going to.
They're going to be commanding people because now they're commanders. Do I even want to know how you feel about that?
Not really. No, you don't. It's interesting. It's interesting. I can tell you. I'll tell you what I told you in a text offline today privately when you asked me how I'm dealing with this whole situation. My words were, I feel deeply humiliated. And so it's a really tough adjustment for me personally. I go back, just a backdrop, to people who maybe are watching the show for the first time or don't know my whole story and background, everything. But I go back 40 years with the Redskins since 1982 and grew up in Minnesota, a fanatical Redskins fan. And I'm the kid that went to the games at the Metrodome with war paint on my face and Redskins Zubas and Mark Rippon jerseys and big foam hands. And I sat in the end zone for Super Bowl 26 30 years ago when the Redskins beat Buffalo 37-24 on January 26, 1992. Not that I remember the day or anything. And yeah, I did. And I mean, a Redskins fanatic throughout the years. I mean, I ate, breathed, slept. I mean, Redskin football. I mean, during the offseason, I kept a countdown chart on my closet door, Stacey, to how many days the next Redskins game during the offseason. I walk around school telling all the kids, hey, it's only 176 days the next Redskins game. My nickname in high school was Dan the Redskins Man. Told everybody that one day I want to be the general manager of the Washington Redskins. And then, of course, 2 years ago, I had a chance to finally interview with the Redskins with Bruce Allen, who was the team president at the time. Would have got the job. I had a great interaction with him for an hour and a half. Scouting or coaching, great interaction, and then he was let go on Black Monday 4 months after my interview. But I walked on the field. I was honored with the All-80s team during that interview weekend. It was incredible. I walked on the field with Gary Clark, Ricky Sanders, all the guys stood at midfield to be honored. Sat up in a luxury box that Mr. Snyder put me up at during my interview weekend. I mean, it was just an incredible experience. As a matter of fact, I have this on my hand, as you can see, to commemorate the experience with the date 10/19/19 right next to it. But I mean, it's branded on me. It's a hand I put in place with my heart. And so, yeah, it's a very difficult adjustment, to say the least, to try to put in the words. But that's the direction the organization has decided to go.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. I'm not going to pour salt in the wound. I found it interesting to look at their logo today, and it says established in 1930 something. Forgive me for not knowing. And I kind of went, isn't it just established in 2022?
It is.
Because that's not the team I grew up watching. Or, we don't get into the politics. Nobody wants anything to do with negative connotation to any people in life. But you know what? It's tough. I feel for you, man. I went through something similar when the Rams made that move to St. Louis, and I ended up absolutely loving my St. Louis Rams and the great people of St. Louis, Missouri. They were great people. They got absolutely jobbed when we moved back to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I continue to feel for them. But yeah, it's a tough day for traditional Redskin fans. And the Commanders is going to take a lot of getting used to, my friend. I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to work on that one.
It's like an expansion team with not being an expansion team. It's very, very bizarre. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. In the NFL, it's a very different situation. And lastly, let me conclude with this, if I could, really quickly, Stacey. It's the issue I take with it is we're still doing the tomahawk chop in Kansas City. We're still doing the tomahawk chop down with FSU with the Seminoles. We're still at the Atlanta Braves over here. We still got the Chicago Blackhawks up here. We still got a lot of these different. So I'm not seeing the equality here with these situations. And so that's my big issue with it. I think it's a lot more behind the scenes that went on with this. And, I think that will come out in the future.
Yeah, it's a tough day, man. My heart goes out to you, and it's not going to get any easier for the Washington fans because this week Washington meets with Congress. That's probably going to unveil some yucky stuff that has nothing to do with the game we love. So let's segue into something that we love. I love that you're representing in the old gear tonight.
Absolutely.
Let's talk some football.
I got everything. I got the 1986 patch, Dexter Manley jersey. I got the whole thing going on tonight.
Dexter Manley, what a beast.
Do you know something really quickly? My wife and I, Samantha, we were at Home Depot today. We're trying to buy like this little fencing to keep our little Corgi, our dog, kind of fenced in, corralled in the back fence in our yard.
Nice.
And, right. Okay. We're on there. And this guy says to me, I got my Dexter Manley jersey on. Now, get that small world, right? This guy says to me, he says, hey, listen, I love your jersey. He goes, do you know I've known Dexter Manley for 30 years? And I said, really? And he told me all these stories about how he used to drive him to like Larry King interviews and all this kind of stuff. And this guy used to play in high school with Lawrence Taylor, and he played a little bit himself at North Carolina. And he known for Dexter for years. I mean, small world. You never know who you're going to meet at Home Depot.
Look, man, we need Dexter Manley on the Dirty Pocket.
We do.
Make it happen.
We do.
God, would that be a fun.
I tell you what, my favorite defensive player of all time, Dexter Manley, number 72. When I was 13 years old, on Christmas night, December 25th, 1987, my parents had got me tickets to go to the Redskins-Vikings game that year for my Christmas present. I called all the hotels in the Minneapolis area in the Yellow Pages, asking for star players and see if they would put me through. I finally called the Bloomington Marriott. They said, good evening, Bloomington Marriott. How may I direct your call? I said, 13-year-old kid. I said, Dexter Manley's. I mean, this is like asking for Mean Joe Green, right? I mean, back then, Dexter Manley was that guy. All of a sudden, I said, one moment, please. And the phone started to ring. I'm 13 years old. My heart goes to my throat. Man answers the phone. He goes, hello? I said, is this Dexter Manley? He said, it is. And we started having this conversation. I talk about my book, Whatever It Takes. And we talked for quite a while on the phone. He was in the mood to talk. It was Christmas night. He was telling me what it was like, how to sack Danny White, what that was like. And I told him his poster hung up proudly in my bedroom. And he's like, how would you feel about coming out to the team hotel tomorrow morning? I'll introduce you to all the guys. You get autographs and pictures. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I ran on the living room and told my parents, I'm like, Dexter Manley invited me to the team hotel. Dexter Manley invited. They're like, sure he did. Sure. I'm like, he did. and sure enough, we got to, my parents took me out the next morning to the Bloomington Marriott. Again, 13 years old. I walk in the front lobby. There he is, trench coat, gray leather pants, waiting for me in the lobby. Dexter Manley, who was an all-pro defensive end at that time, many Pro Bowls, waiting for me. And sure enough, he took pictures with me. He autographed my football cards. He autographed a picture of him sacking David Woodley in the Super Bowl in Sports Illustrated for me, walked me back to where the team was having breakfast, introduced me to the guys on the team, and they all took pictures and signed stuff for me and everything. It was a dream come true.
Oh,
great guy. So I love Dexter.
I loved it. We shifted gears from what's going on in Washington to good old time memories.
See, we did it. We did it. We spun it in a positive direction.
So speaking of tradition, we've gone so deep into the podcast. What are we drinking tonight? I'm on peppermint tea, living on the edge. I am a party machine, and you are desperately looking for a Pepsi endorsement. Come on, Pepsi, hit us up.
Watch this. Hold on. Let me do my best Arsenio Hall here. Hold on. You remember Arsenio Hall when he used to do this?
I've been on the show.
Okay, well, there the dog pound goes wild.
Been on the show.
You know how it goes.
I danced with Vanessa Williams.
See, there's things our audience doesn't know. Our audience doesn't know. I talked to Dexter Manley on the phone. You were in Arsenio Hall. There's things that people don't know about us. But check this out. We're celebrities. Okay? We are actually. We really are. Hey, I've shook hands with JFK Jr. before. Now check this out, right? Okay. So how does this look? Pepsi. The taste of a new generation. I mean, we got that down cold.
Jeez.
We could get sponsorship here, Stacey.
Let's go, Pepsi. Hit us up. Get in the dirty pocket.
Let's go.
Come on. We're dehydrated over here. Give us what we need.
Pepsi and a smile. Oh, wait, that's another one. Never mind. Go on.
That's a whole different one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move. Speaking of traditional, man, this is about as big a week in the NFL in terms of retirements as anybody could have planned for. It was rumored. It was poo-pooed. Then it became official. What many people consider the GOAT, Tom Brady, has left the stage. He is leaving the NFL and has officially retired. Your feelings, Scout Kelly?
For now.
Oh! Bombshell.
For now.
Bombshell.
For now.
Are you insinuating that you think the GOAT maybe just taking some time and can be lured out of retirement at some point in the near future?
Did we not see this with Gronk?
Good grief, that'd be weird. Never even thought of that.
Yeah, well,
his wife's going to kill him, man.
Leave it to me. Leave it to me.
Yeah.
To come up with stuff like this. But you never know, because he is a fiery competitor. And you touched on something, Stacey, offline, I felt was interesting. Why is he leaving when he's on top? I mean, you're talking about arguably the NFL MVP this year. A guy had a terrific year, had a year that most guys half his age couldn't even dream of. And he's going out at this stage. He was kind of the reason I kind of think that maybe we haven't seen the last of Tom Brady is because of the way it ended. There was rumors that came out earlier in the week that said he was done. Not so fast. Guess who's back? Brady's back. And it was kind of like, no, wait a second here. He hasn't announced it yet. Then he was on his podcast. On his podcast, he said he was day to day. Then he comes out the next day and says, yep, I'm retiring. It's kind of like this yo-yo, kind of like it just, I am not sold that he really wants to do this. I think his wife, as you mentioned, wants him to do this. And I think there's other people maybe wanting to do this. And I think he doesn't want to go through another offseason conditioning program.
It happens all the time, man. That's what those guys at that age hate.
Right. I mean, Aaron Rodgers did his best to avoid everything last year too. And I promised I wouldn't bring him up on the show, but he did. And so I think that, there's a competitive fire in Tom Brady that is like the eternal flame at JFK's, at his grave. It burns all the time. I think it's going to be really hard for him to walk away, especially. I mean, when guys are done, I get it, and their game is decreasing. But to go out when he's on top, I guess. Maybe not, but in the back of my mind, I'm always going to wonder, will he come back? And maybe he comes back with somebody. I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's always going to be a possibility that he could come back until he doesn't. Once he's about 55, we can put it to bed. But right now, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to pull a Brett Favre. It's an interesting thought, Scout. I don't know. I prefer to see him exit at the hands of the NFC champion Los Angeles Rams in his last game. I don't think that bothers me. But here's the thing about Tom Brady that's mind-blowing. If you look at his career statistically, do you want to know what his two best seasons were?
What are they? I don't know. Actually, believe it or not, I don't know this.
The last two seasons.
That's wild.
That's incredible.
That's wild.
Look, I'm not a Brady fan. Tom, we still want to have you on the show. I'm not a Brady fan for obvious reasons, but to see someone at 44 years of age put together two back-to-back seasons that are statistically his best.
Yeah, that's wild.
Is insane.
Beyond the New England years. It is insane. It really is. Because if you think back, I think the Buccaneers, 3 years ago? Was it 3 years ago, right? They had a losing season. I mean, the team that Arians and Brady and all those guys came into was not an established team, was not a good team at all. Mm-hmm. And they took that situation, made it into the best. And I think you hit on it, Stacey, very well, is that he saved the best for last. And it's incredible. It really is because I mean, other guys, I mean, they're done with this thing at 34, 33, 30 years old. They're done. Average career lasts 3 years, I think it is, in the NFL is the average career. I mean, he's played. I mean, it's funny because when he's in the Super Bowl and that, they're talking about, I think, these different players that he's playing against were like 3 years old in kindergarten when he started playing. I mean, it's wild.
Joe Burrow was 1 year old.
That's wild.
Joe Burrow was 1. when Brady entered the NFL.
See, he's 1 year old. That's great.
Wild, man.
So I mean, literally, like Joe Burrow could be his kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Think about that.
It's a bit of a stretch, but we won't get into biology and when you hit puberty and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely wild.
Well, he would have been 20 years old, right? 20, 21, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Or maybe a little bit younger, maybe a little bit younger.
Right. Don't leave it to me to do math.
Math was my worst class. I used to sit in math class, and I used to look at the sports page.
It's so mind-boggling to think that could be true. It's just so crazy.
Just about, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's even more? What's that?
We could celebrate Brady for hours and hours and hours, but here's the question:
people are doing that, right?
Yeah, is Gronk following him? Is Gronk going to play without Tom?
We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I think Gronk's another one.
You doubt that these two are gone for good.
I do. I really do. You gotta understand. I really do doubt it. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens down there.
So let's play general manager for a minute, okay? Brady, Gronk retire. Arians, I think, is nuts to stay there. I think he should walk away too. And if the Buccaneers were smart, they'd encourage Arians to leave, and they'd take Mr. Leftwich, and they would just shift him over to head coach. They'd go into this draft. They'd go get somebody, or put on your general manager cap for a minute. There's a couple of quarterbacks. One you've written about extensively from the Detroit Lions. Another one that you felt was going to lead the 49ers to the promised land. Is it possible that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers...
Well, you said that with pride. With pride. I heard that. Oh, you thought.
I'm very subtly getting in what Los Angeles Rams digs I can.
I picked up on that, but go ahead.
But is it possible that the Buccaneers, the Arians is encouraged to join Gronk and Brady on the golf course, Leftwich shifts over to the head coaching position? Who would replace Tom in Tampa Bay if he, in fact, is retired?
Well, there's a number of options that they'll have to step in. One, I mean, they could theoretically keep in mind. I was very high last year on quarterback Kyle Trask out of the University of Florida Gators, and they very quietly took him in the upper part of the draft. I think it was the second round. They took him, and he didn't get the headlines because of all the other guys that got the headlines. The other 4 or 5 guys, but Trask is somebody who's unorthodox, and I really liked. He's a guy who's had a chance to sit behind Brady and learn for a year, and so that's a distinct possibility. He'll definitely be in that mix for sure as a higher round draft pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And outside of that, obviously you have the sweepstakes. There's pictures floating around on Facebook with Aaron. You know how they do that? They just insert a body into a uniform.
Photoshop. It's a dangerous talent.
Could it be? Could Aaron Rodgers end up there? That type of thing. Or there's a story that broke on Heavy.com this past week that is a credible source that basically said we could see your boy Jared Goff going to Tampa as a possibility as well. I don't know. Kirk Cousins is obviously, his name is out there. I think Cousins ends up ideally with the Broncos because that's where George Patton is a general manager, and George Patton used to be with the Vikings. I see some synergy between the two there. That's how the NFL does business. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out, or maybe it's somebody else that we don't know about yet. Because one thing is for certain is that Tampa Bay Buccaneers will not have a hard time recruiting somebody, whether it's a trade or free agency or whoever it might be, to come play there. They're not going to have the same difficulty as a losing organization would have recruiting a top guy to come in there. They have everything set up. It's an easy sell. Arians is still there. I like your Leftwich analysis. That whole thing, he was supposed to go to Jacksonville, but that still hasn't materialized, which is a very weird situation. I might add, we can get into that maybe if you want, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens there in Tampa going forward. Or, once upon a time, if we're going to tell fairy tales today, once upon a time, there was 2 quarterbacks in New England, one by the name of Tom Brady and the other by the name of Jimmy G. And what I heard is Jimmy G is done in San Francisco. Huge mistake.
He said goodbye today.
He said goodbye
to the
huge
press.
mistake. He said goodbye.
Yeah.
Huge mistake. Huge.
Oh yeah,
mistake.
Trey Lance is never getting. I mean, Kyle
Shanahan. You won't even see the 49ers in the playoffs anymore. They're a done deal. I hope all the 49er Nation enjoyed their run this year. It's a done deal. They won't even be able to spell playoffs next year with Trey Lance be under center. And so, but Jimmy G is going to be out there. So does he kind of indirectly follow Brady's lead? And you know how they were in New England as he was the backup, and now all of a sudden does he go and replace the legend Tom Brady in Tampa Bay?
He's got a ton of experience compared to the quarterbacks who would be available in a trade or a free agent situation. He's got a ton of experience. You can't deny it at this point. It's almost eerie though, because it's almost looking like Jimmy G is becoming this placeholder quarterback. Like he's just good enough to hold the reins for a year or two while they groom a young guy, which I could see the Bucs doing. Bring Jimmy G in. He's familiar somewhat with the Patriots playbook of the past, which we saw a lot of the Bucs adapt under Brady. So very interesting. So keep a close eye on that. I don't see Jared Goff going there. I think Goff will stay in Detroit at least another year. They probably will draft a quarterback, which you've been saying for months. But I think Jared will hold tight there for a little bit. I'd like to see Jared get, somewhere. I'd love to see him get like a Cleveland, somewhere where they got a great running game. We'll see what happens. It's interesting, though. We've got to at least spend a few minutes and say goodbye to the GOAT, by some people's standards, and really recognize the greatness that he brought to this game and how strange it's going to be next year to tune into a football world that does not have Tom Brady.
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was a 6th-round draft choice. We're not talking about a top 5 guy here, a 1st-round pick. We're talking about a 6th-round draft choice, the 199th, I think, pick overall, that all these teams passed by. Nobody gave a chance to. Really wasn't coming out highly touted at all from Michigan. I know somebody who used to scout for the Patriots and was actually scouting for the Patriots during that time when Brady was drafted and came in there. He told me that they didn't even know if Tom Brady was going to make the team. This is something nobody knows either. They didn't even know that Tom Brady was going to make the team his first preseason. They thought they might end up cutting him. They had no idea. This gentleman who was scouting for the Patriots at the time told me this. He says, Daniel, if anybody ever tries to tell you that Bill Belichick or the Patriots knew what they had in Tom Brady when we drafted him, they are flat out lying to you. Because we had no idea. We did not even know, quote unquote, if he was going to make our team. And so he developed. Kudos to Charlie Weiss. Charlie has never gotten the recognition that he deserves. In my mind, he was the offensive coordinator of the Patriots during the time, had a world to do with Tom Brady's development, finding the mismatches, exploiting them as an offensive coordinator, which was his specialty. And I worked with Charlie. He was the offensive coordinator of the Jets when I was there. So kudos to him. He had a lot to do with Tom Brady's development. But it is incredible to see what Tom Brady did. And the thing that separates him, in my mind, as a talent evaluator, is nobody, and I mean nobody, had a bigger chip on his shoulder than Tom Brady. And the chip is something that's extremely underrated when it comes to scouting. This is not just about running through little orange cones at the combine drills. This isn't about throwing all the routes. This is about going through all the motions. This is about people who want to win, i.e. the opposite of Trevor Lawrence, who doesn't give a damn if he wins or loses. Tom Brady was just the opposite. And Tom Brady wanted to win. And every time the game came down to the clutch, he found a way to win. I remember watching a game against the Jets just last season. I'm sure you probably saw it or saw the highlights. At the very end of the game, he came back and won it. I mean, it's almost like magical. It's like the game's on the line, and there's Tom Brady, there's TB12. And so absolutely, we need to recognize him as being the greatest of all time. Why? Not just because of the 7 rings, because he played till he was 44, right? 44 years old. He played. He's the first human being in world history to do anything like he's done at his age. Everybody else is up at the broadcast booth. He's still playing. It's incredible. And for, like I said earlier in the show, for somebody who go out on those type of statistics is incredible.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. So
hats off. I won't take my hat off, but hey, hats off to TB12. incredible career. Your next stop, if you don't come back, is the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
No question. That's a first ballot Hall of Famer there. He is the statistically, emotionally, everything, the leading quarterback in history. So
even Bill Belichick said he's the greatest football player of all time. He said that, I think, today. I saw something on social media.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So
it's nice to see.
There you go. The landscape in the NFL is going to change dramatically without him and Gronk, who arguably we could spend 15 minutes talking about where he ranks in all-time tight ends, because the man was incredible. So,
and by the way, if I can just throw in a little controversial comment to get, kind of things kind of stirred up really quickly.
Okay.
Just let me get things stirred up here. Hold on. We should have a special segment called the Stirring the Pot segment. But let me just chime in on something, okay? For all of you Kansas City fans out there, to the Chiefs Nation, okay, who thinks that Patrick Mahomes is the baby goat, dream on. Dream on. Because I can tell you what, that play when he ran around and scrambled at the end of that game looked more like something I was seeing in a semi-pro football game than a baby goat make that play. That was ridiculously stupid. That's not something you don't just grab. You throw the ball away. Herm Edwards say, we played to win the game. You throw the ball away in that situation. And he threw that. I mean, yes, it went off the guy's hands, but he seemed too reckless down the stretch in my mind. I don't know about you, Stacey, but he was playing out of control. And that was a huge warning sign to me that we're not looking at the baby goat. I mean, it even suggests he's even the same breath as Tom Brady is I can't even comprehend that, to be honest with you.
No, nobody's in that same breath except for the guy I think it's the GOAT, which is Joe Montana.
And they do the same thing in the draft every year. They do the same thing in the draft every year. Everybody's the next, a great one. Everybody's the next Walter Payton.
The next Calvin Johnson. The next,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's been one.
Yeah.
No, I agree that, without going too deep into the AFC Championship, I think you live by the chaos and the off-script plays. You die by the chaos and the
it's sandlot football. And kudos to the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't want to get so far off script here that we're not recognizing the greatness of the Cincinnati Bengals this year.
God, they played
fantastic. And I love seeing Ickey Woods be the one to present that trophy to Lamar Hunt. That's awesome. Ickey Woods, I remember him. For fans like you and I, our age, we remember the Ickey shuffle when he used to spin that ball in the end zone. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube. YouTube, type in Ickey shuffle. You'll see what we're talking about, the jungle. It was incredible. But I tell you what, for teams out there who keep on with this nonsense about we're in the midst of a rebuild, like it's some kind of badge of honor for 5-10 years. Guess what, folks? Cincinnati Bengals, 2 years from being the worst team in football to being in the Super Bowl. Rebuilds that take a long time are nothing more than an excuse for general managers who don't know how to build a team to steal money. That's what a rebuild is. Look it up in your dictionary.
But man, I got to tell you, I don't know how many times in my lifetime I've seen a Joe Burrow. I mean, Burrow is special.
Oh, absolutely. But that's a team.
Yeah. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I got to tell you, there is just not many quarterbacks. We've seen a bunch taken early in the last few years that even are on par with Joe Burrow. Like you said, he's
right. You're right.
30 games ago, the Bengals were the worst football team in the National Football League.
You're right.
They're a week and a half away from getting beat by the Los Angeles Rams in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's amazing.
That was smooth how you slipped that in there. That was smooth.
I love Burrow. He's amazing.
I know. Burrow is incredible. And let me say this about Burrow. I just touched on Tom Brady having the biggest chip on his shoulder in NFL history. If you look at Joe Burrow, he's got the second biggest chip on his shoulder I've seen.
It's there.
Now, Randy Moss had one too now. Moss, because a lot of people passed him by, and Randy Moss went down to Dallas, and he let Jerry Jones know how much he appreciated being passed over that many times. But that was just like he was picked 23rd in the first round, okay? Joe Burrow, okay, has that chip on his shoulder, and as I shared on our show last week for people who didn't see it, I was told by someone who's at a director level in the NFL. See, nobody else gets this stuff. Adam Schefter doesn't even have this information. Okay, I was told by somebody that if Bill Belichick ever left the New England Patriots, the only job he would want, the first job he would want was the Cincinnati Bengals. I was told that before the beginning of the 2020 season, before Burrow's blown up. But he said Joe Burrow's smarter than anybody as far as reading a defense in the NFL. And yes, to your point, Stacey, there is only one Joe Burrow, and yes, he's a main reason why they're going to the Super Bowl. I agree with you on that. But it just goes to show. It goes to show that one team like the Bengals knows how to draft a quarterback, and some other teams that have taken some other guys clearly do not know.
Yep. Nope. It's a valid point. It's a valid point. And I'll tell you that it's really been a special year for football in the playoffs, man. It's just been absolutely amazing. So on that note, other big news this week is the coaching carousel, and it has blown up around the league. So there are 8 or 9 openings at this point across the National Football League, which is incredible. Brian Daboll lands at the New York Giants. Give me 60 seconds. Your thoughts. Good pick?
Great pick. Phenomenal pick. Brian Daboll is, to me, I love Brian Daboll. I loved him since the first time I did an advanced scouting report on the Buffalo Bills in 2019 when I was going for that job with the Redskins. I looked at their whole team, and to me, he was the most creative, unpredictable play caller in the National Football League. Actually, I went ahead and I recommended him when Washington had Bill Callahan as an interim coach and Bruce Allen was thinking that he still might be there before he was let go. I actually sent an email to Bruce Allen, who was the team president at the time, and recommended Brian Daboll. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I think it's a little bit of weird fit with the traditional Giants because they're so conservative and so traditional as far as their DNA is concerned. Daboll himself is someone who's extremely creative and will definitely, absolutely be a huge breath of fresh air over what they've had there.
Oh, yeah. What he's done with Josh Allen in Buffalo, it's going to be a lot of fun to see if he can get that out of Daniel Jones, who's similar in size.
I like Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he's got the size. He's got the arm. He's a gamer. I mean, he's tough, man.
I like him. I give him a big grade in 2019 when I looked at the Giants too. I think he's taken a lot of heat and a lot of it's unjustly so. Yep. And I like him. I think they have a lot to work with there. I'm very concerned about Kadarius Toney because he's got a lot of things going on. There's a lot of red flags around the area that I don't know how he's going to shake out for them. But don't be surprised in the first round. You heard it here first. Don't be surprised if the New York Giants go Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama.
Even with the knee, huh?
Even with the knee, because he's going to do something. I think Garrett Wilson's going to go before that, but from the kid from Ohio State who I love. But I think that the New York Giants are going to do something. Daboll is an offensive-minded coach. They're going to do something to bring some kind of offensive firepower there. I mean, that's what I put in my mock draft this week for the Jets, is that Williams would end up with the Giants.
Okay, before we slipped into draft talk and college football a little bit, one more. Josh McDaniels lands in Las Vegas. He is leader of the Raiders.
The Raiders.
What do you think of that choice? He's been a polarizing guy. He bombed out in Denver, goes back to New England. I love the NFL Films theme music.
John Facenda.
Yeah. Oh, epic. Absolutely epic.
The Raiders. A certain much of mystique still lingers in the name.
Can he get that back? Is McDaniels that
interesting? Guy? It's interesting because here's another thing that I talked about in our previous show that nobody in the NFL will talk about because I know this because I was inside the Jets building when Belichick was the defensive coordinator. And here's what I know. Al Davis did everything in his power to try to bring Bill Belichick in to be the head coach of the Raiders. Bill wouldn't have anything to do with it. Now it's interesting. Now Al Davis is gone. God rest his soul, right? And his son is now the owner, and now Belichick's protege, Josh McDaniels, is with the Raiders. It'll be very interesting. McDaniels is a very good play caller, an excellent play caller. They got Carr there. They got some pieces there. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I've always loved Josh McDaniels. I think he's a very good coach. And I think the Raiders are in very good hands with him as being the head coach out there.
God, I'm sure Raider fans want to see that mystique come back. Derek Carr, 5th year of a $125 million contract. It's going to be really something to see if McDaniels can get Derek Carr into special space in that top 5, 6, 7 quarterback category. I think he's in that next tier down right now. But interesting choices announced tonight. Kevin O'Connell, our offensive coordinator in Los Angeles, is going to be the head coach of the Vikings following the Super Bowl. Focus, Kevin. Focus for the next 10 days, please. But after that, he's going to be the head coach of the Vikings. Really nice choice. I think it's an interesting choice. Who is going to land in Jacksonville? Who is going to coach Trevor Lawrence? And why isn't everyone kicking the door down? We only got 60 seconds. Why isn't everybody kicking the door down to get to that job?
So far, I've kept to my 60-second parameters.
You're doing well. You're doing well.
Thank you. Well, what did I say earlier a few weeks ago on this very show? That Jacksonville is going to have a very hard time bringing a big-name coordinator. Did I not say that?
You did.
They're going to have a very difficult time because Trevor Lawrence is walking a fine line towards insubordination. The things that he did publicly by second-guessing Urban Meyer last season, wanting a certain running back in the game at a certain time, just like Aaron Rodgers tries to dictate things, try to play armchair coach, GM, all these things. Trevor Lawrence has some of that in him. He criticized Urban Meyer publicly. I think that coaches are very leery to go into that situation because of Trevor Lawrence, because he's going to become uncontrollable, and he's going to be speaking. If things don't go Trevor's way, he's going to be like that spoiled little kid who's going to take his microphone and go home. You know what I mean? He's going to say what he needs to say. He's not going to be shy about it. Everybody knows that's his town. They have created a monster down there, and the guy is not qualified to make he's not even qualified to be an NFL quarterback, let alone be making decisions down in Jacksonville. But that's the reason why they're having problems down there, is because Trevor Lawrence has become unmanageable.
Unreal. I say throw Doug Peterson at him and call it good for a year or two. I mean, that's what he did with.
Well, you hit it. You hit it about Trevor Lawrence when we first started doing the show.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
The Jeff George comparison.
Jeff George.
That's what it is. Yep. And they're going to have a very hard time. I mean, you would have thought, to your point, Stacey, you would have thought that they would have had people lined up outside the door like it was a day after Christmas at Target returning stuff, taking numbers, basically. You would have thought people have been lined up around the block to take that job with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
Last year at this time at draft time, people basically almost just they've all tripped over themselves to get to him. But now this year it's different because he's put things on tape that coaches are not comfortable with.
Yep. I think they're going to settle on somebody for him again.
A Jim Caldwell,
a Doug Peterson, which is, they do need an older coach, not one of these young
somebody
guys.
To handle is somebody that can handle.
I don't want to see Bieniemy end up there.
But the thing with Kevin O'Connell, okay, to taking that job in Minnesota, that is proof in the pudding that even the young offensive minds in this game want nothing. He would rather go deal with the problematic Kirk Cousins than Trevor Lawrence. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah, he'll take the offense we run, and he'll get Dalvin Cook and a veteran in Kirk Cousins at least for a year. They'll probably draft a quarterback this year, is my guess. A lot of good stuff happening there. So we're going to stay on this coaching carousel every week on the Dirty Pocket. We're even talking about adding some live episodes, folks. So stay tuned with me and the Scout.
We're coming, baby. We're coming. Dirty Pocket, baby. We coming.
You get to tell us how good looking and smart we are live and in real chats.
Well, I get hundreds of comments a week telling me that on my Facebook and social media. Something like that. Do you know that I'm becoming a household name in the UK, Stacey? Did you know that? Did you know that? Honestly, get this, right? I opened up my Facebook today and I'm looking at it, right? And it turns out to be a post in NFL UK, and they're talking about Super Bowl snacks, like something completely unrelated to even players. And some guy in the NFL UK says, "Why didn't you ask that scout Daniel Kelly what he thinks?" And I got tagged in it out of the blue. So
I like popcorn and chips.
But that tells us something, doesn't it?
You're
I'm on the minds of the UK.
You're big time.
People are thinking about DK in the UK. That's what's happening.
Okay, he's crossed the pond. Okay.
Woo!
As we scramble out of the dirty pocket for the next 2 minutes, tomorrow night, the Shrine Bowl takes place on the NFL Network. You, of course, have been deep in the weeds doing your stuff, which we're excited to announce some fun stuff coming up for you with Draft Fuel and some other things that you're doing that we'll get into in the next week or so, including preview shows. But give us one player to watch tomorrow night in the Shrine Bowl that every team should truly want on their roster. Give me one.
Brock Purdy, quarterback from Iowa State, 6'1", 220. Yeah, listen to this. I'm gonna go a little rogue on us here. I'm gonna go a little rogue on us.
Okay.
This is coming out in tomorrow morning's SI Detroit Lions. Okay. So I'm not bashful about this stuff.
Teaser.
Number 15, he's going to play for the West, and I got my phone up here. Sorry, I mean I'm good. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have assistance in my headphones.
Grassroots, baby. We're mercenaries. We're in the pits.
Yeah, we're the pits, absolutely. So I mean, we're doing it old school, right? But get this right. This is my write up on Brock Purdy. That's right, Purdy. Purdy showed me more in his game against Texas than quarterbacks Kenny Pickett or Sam Howell have shown me all season long. He also is a dual threat that threw for 3,188 yards, ranked 26th in the nation, 2021, averaged 3.2 yards per carry rushing in his 365 attempts during his 4-year college career. Purdy has pocket mobility. He's pretty accurate, 71.1% completion percentage, and he can fit the ball through some pretty tight windows. The thing I like about Purdy is he is decisive in the pocket. He runs that offense with a pretty quick tempo, a pretty high energy, which I really like. And guess what, folks? The name that went through my mind when I watched Brock Purdy play was he reminds me of Rich Gannon.
Wow. Okay, there's a big comp. Gannon, a journeyman until he lands with the Raiders and gets to the Super Bowl. Okay, rumor has it there's a few teams looking for a quarterback in this year's draft. Brock Purdy is a dark horse, a sleeper, says the scout, Daniel Kelly. Check him out at SI, Sports Illustrated for the Lions, if you want to read more about that coming up too. And listen, we're just starting to talk about the draft. I'm going to do everything in my power over the next 7-8 days to talk a lot about the Los Angeles Rams, the future Super Bowl champions. But following the Super Bowl, there's going to be a lot of draft coverage here at the Dirty Pocket. Obviously, that's a scout specialty. He writes about it. And you've got some pretty fun and big announcements coming up in terms of the draft websites and some other fun stuff. So some teasers, folks. So follow us. Thank you for joining us on the Dirty Pocket this week. Again, if you want to follow Mr. Daniel Kelly, the scout, you can follow him at Sports Illustrated, where he writes about the Lions and the Jets. He's an AFC, NFC guy, and then really excited to join the Draft Fuel team at draftfuelhq.com.
That's right.
You can follow me at gridironicon.com and all of the usual places you would find that on podcasting networks as well as social media. Folks, and to my partner in crime, Mr. Kelly, thank you, sir, for helping me navigate the Dirty Pocket.
Absolutely.
No
Thank
football
you.
this weekend. It's kind of weird.
We got the Pro Bowl. We got the Pro Bowl. What do you mean?
Geez, somebody do something about that. God.
You know, I used to tape the Pro Bowl. Do you know that? I had my grandma tape it for me off ESPN. I'd watch it. I mean, that's
we used to actually try playing. I mean, in the 80s, the guys played. There were some brutal hits. Remember that hit on the punter? Who was it that hit? Oh, was that Sean Taylor that drilled the – oh, yeah, you should know that one. Wasn't that Sean Taylor in the Pro Bowl that drilled that punter? I mean, come on.
Yeah, we got the Pro Bowl.
Great.
Absolutely. We got the Pro Bowl. And also, I have over 200 Redskins games on tape, victories on VHS tape that Samantha always wants me to get rid of every time we move. That's like a 120-pound tote that we lug around with us. So the season really never ends for me. I don't have a VCR currently, but theoretically the season never ends for me. So I'm not subject to just whatever's on TV. I could go back and watch the Redskins-Giants game from '86 if I felt like it. I just have too much to do.
Good luck on finding that VCR. You'll be out garage sailing this weekend. VCR. All right, folks, that's it for us this week. Thanks for joining us on the Dirty Pocket. We will see you next week. And from the Scout, adios.
Hey, adios. Take care. Thanks for watching.